In this week's Parsha, Parshas Nasso, the Torah speaks about a Nazir. A Nazir is a person who, according to the sequence of the events in this week's Parsha, a Nazir is a person who saw really the dangers of what certain substances in this world, such as wine, for example, can cause. How they can damage a relationship. And the Nazir is really a person who is reacting to the force of certain substances in the world, such as wine. Because the way that the Torah really highlights a Nazir is that he is somebody who has abstained from wine and any of its derivatives. Grapes, anything that is a wine derivative or comes from wine, has any relationship with wine, he separates himself from. But it's very interesting that at the end of his Nazirus, when his term, right, when if a person becomes a Nazir, it's really for a determined amount of time. It's not something that he takes upon himself for his lifetime. Something which, in simple situations, is a period of time. I think when that time comes to an end, the Torah tells us that he has to bring a korban chatas, a sin offering. It's very interesting. Because what did he do wrong? Why is he bringing a chatas? A sin offering is a korban, an offering, a sacrifice that one would bring to the Mishkan or bring to the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, and offer it upon the altar to atone for his sins. What did he do wrong? He abstained from a potentially harmful substance. So the Ramban says an amazing pshat. Ramban says that when he became Hanazir, ideally he should have remained a Nazir. Meaning, he elevated himself. He elevated his spirituality. And he did something which was a positive step from a spiritual perspective. As the Ramban says, V'roi haya lo sheyazir la'olam. It would have been fit for him to be a Nazir forever. The entire duration of his life. V'kadosh le'elokav, and to be sanctified to his God. It's very interesting because the pasuk the Ramban says also said at what level does he actually get to? So there are verses which equate a Nazir to a prophet, to a Navi. So we're talking about somebody who took some major steps in his spirituality in a positive direction. And other verses say that in his entire duration of being a Nazir, he is kadosh. He is sanctified. However, when that period comes to an end, what happens? The Ramban says he needs a kapara. Why? Beshuvu lehitameh betavos ha'olam. In his returning to become impurified, defiled by the worldly desires. Meaning he's going to start partaking, and he's allowed to, once his duration of being a Nazir has come to an end, he is permitted to be like any other normal Jew, and he can enjoy the worldly pleasures. In a kosher way, of course, right? But he can indulge himself in wine. He can have wine if he wants, right? But he has, in a sense, he has descended from his spiritual loftiness which he achieved by becoming a Nazir. I think this Ramban gives us this tremendous perspective in how the Torah views really the world and the Jews being in it. Right? There are many wonderful things in this world. There are many foods which taste delicious. And there are many, many things which give human beings pleasure. Right? But those things can defile a person. They can make that person tameh, impure. They have that potential. And a Jew really just has to be responsible and to keep things in check. To keep the materialism in his or her life at check. And to make sure that it's not something which is really driving his life, something which he is constantly indulging himself in, and ultimately defiling his soul in, but something that is aiding in his spirituality, in his spiritual growth. Because, like it or not, right, we are spiritual beings, we have a soul, but we are surrounded by gashmias, we are surrounded by materialism. And Judaism, or the Torah, does not promote abstinence and going off and hiding in a cave and living in seclusion. We are to actually enhance the world, embrace it, and elevate it in our service of the divine, in our spiritual pursuits. And that is ultimately what I believe this point of a Nazir is coming to teach us, where he originally refrained from certain things, right? That was a positive thing. For us, what we should take from that is not saying that we should refrain from everything and completely cut it off, but we should realize what materialism is, how it is affecting us, how we can use it. Now, are we utilizing it for a better good, or is it controlling us? Who's controlling who? Thank you, and that is my point for this week.